It was pouring like the sky had cracked open. The sound of the rain hitting the tin roof was deafening. I had just turned off the kitchen light and was about to head upstairs when I saw movement through the glass pane of the front door. 3 silhouettes. I froze. My hand hovered near the light switch again, but I didn't flip it. I moved closer, heart pounding, the kind of pounding that makes your chest feel hollow. And then I saw her. She stood in the rain like a statue, soaked to the bone, but still majestic. The lynx. The same one I'd fed yesterday. But she wasn't alone. 3 small bodies shifted nervously behind her. Tiny, spotted, wide-eyed. Cubs. My brain refused to make sense of it. What the hell was happening? I opened the door without thinking. Cold air and rain blew inside. The lynx didn't flinch. She looked straight at me, eyes like molten gold, unreadable but locked on mine. The cubs stayed close to her legs. One of them let out a faint, high-pitched sound. Not a meow, not a growl, something in between. It broke something in me. I whispered, "You came back." She took a step forward. I took a step back. This was insane. What was I doing? Letting a wild animal near my house was already a bad idea. Letting 4 inside. That was bordering on suicidal. But something in me, maybe something I'd buried long ago, told me to wait. And I did. She walked up to the porch slowly, like she was testing me. Her cubs followed her, stumbling slightly on the wet wood. I could see now that they were shaking. Not just from the cold. They were exhausted, drenched, hungry. I stepped aside. That was all it took. She entered. She didn't walk far, just inside the threshold. She lowered herself onto the doormat, like she'd done this 100 times. The cubs circled her, then huddled together, curling into a tight ball against her flank. I stood there for a long moment. No words, just the sound of rain. My socks soaked through. I gently closed the door. And now I was inside my house with a wild lynx and her 3 cubs. My knees finally gave out, and I sat down on the floor, across from her, maybe 6 feet away. She didn't take her eyes off me. Not once. But she didn't look afraid. She looked tired. So was I? I tried to process everything. Just yesterday, I'd spotted her in the field behind the tool shed. She looked like skin over bones. I'd panicked, unsure what to do, then grabbed some leftover turkey from the fridge and set it outside. I watched her eat from the window. She didn't rush. She ate like she was savoring every bite. Then she disappeared into the woods. I figured that was it. Just a moment. A random act of kindness. No strings. I didn't expect this. She shifted slightly. One of the cubs stretched, then let out a quiet yawn. I had to remind myself to breathe. I didn't move for almost an hour. I don't know why. I was afraid of breaking whatever fragile trust this was. It felt sacred, like I was standing on a wire that could snap if I even exhaled wrong. Eventually, I stood up slowly, careful not to make any sudden moves. My legs were stiff. I tiptoed to the kitchen, grabbed a few slices of cold chicken and a bowl of water, and slid them gently across the floor toward her. She sniffed the air but didn't move. The cubs lifted their heads. Minutes passed. Then she leaned forward and began eating. Slowly, deliberately. The cubs joined her. I stood in the hallway, watching, heart still racing, brain still trying to catch up. What the hell was I supposed to do now? Call someone? The Rangers? Animal control? But I couldn't. Not yet. Not tonight. I turned off the lights and sat back down. I didn't want to scare them. Didn't want to break this strange, unspoken agreement. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, the lynx family ate in silence. And I sat there, in the dim glow of the hallway light, trying to understand how a single meal led to this. Trying to understand why she chose me. Trying to figure out if I'd made a mistake, or if this was the start of something I wasn't ready for. I barely slept that night. I must have drifted off around dawn, slouched in the armchair, neck stiff, spine aching. When I opened my eyes, the lynx and her cubs were gone. No blood, no mess, no broken furniture, just a few wet paw prints fading into the hallway rug. Like a dream I couldn't quite hold on to. I sat up slowly, rubbing my face, unsure whether to feel relieved or abandoned. And then I heard it, a faint scratching noise coming from the laundry room. I stood and moved toward it, barefoot and on edge. The door was ajar. I pushed it open. One of the cubs. He'd somehow gotten inside the room and curled up between a pile of towels. Now he was trying to climb out, slipping a little on the tile floor. I couldn't breathe for a second. The little guy looked up at me, eyes bright and unafraid. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." I grabbed a clean towel and slowly crouched down. He didn't run. I wrapped him gently, his tiny body surprisingly warm and squirmy. I held him like I'd hold a kitten, which felt completely wrong and terrifying. He let out a soft sound, somewhere between a chirp and a whimper. I carried him back to the front door and opened it. The morning was damp and gray, the rain finally easing into a drizzle. His mother was waiting, crouched near the edge of the trees. The other two cubs sat behind her, watching. She didn't move when she saw me, but her eyes narrowed. I placed the cub down gently on the porch. He hesitated for a heartbeat, then darted toward her, his legs clumsy on the wet grass. She sniffed him once, then turned and disappeared into the woods. I stood there a while, soaked again. Later that day, I sat at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee and stared out the window. I had no plan, no idea what I was supposed to do if they came back, or if someone else found out. I'd moved here 3 months ago, to a rental house on the edge of nowhere. After the divorce, after losing my job, after my father died, I just needed space. Something quiet. Somewhere to stop being someone. This place had been my reset button. I chopped wood, took long walks, learned how to cook things that didn't come from a microwave, talked to no one except the cashier at the local market and the barista who never remembered my name. And now, somehow, I was feeding lynxes. I couldn't stop pacing. I picked up my phone and scrolled to a number I hadn't used in months. Janet. She used to work with exotic wildlife before opening a small veterinary clinic in the next town over. We'd met years ago when I helped with a wildlife documentary shoot. She had this calm way of talking, like nothing could rattle her. I hesitated, thumb over the call button. Then I pressed it. She answered on the third ring. "Well, I'll be damned," she said. "Thought you fell off the planet." "Hey, Janet. You alive?" "Mostly." Pause. "What's going on?" I exhaled slowly. "You still deal with wildlife?" "Not officially." "What?" I told her everything. Not the emotional parts, just the facts. About the lynx, the cubs, the rain, the towel, the porch. She didn't laugh. "You need to be careful," she said. "If someone sees them, there's going to be questions. You could get hit with a fine or worse. Technically, you're not supposed to feed them. Not predators." "I didn't plan to." "I know. But now they know where you live." "What do I do?" "Nothing. Yet. Don't follow them. Don't touch the cubs. Don't try to help unless she's injured." She was starving. "She found you. That means she's smart. Respect that." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "And hey," she added, "you always did have a weird magnetism for lost things." We hung up after a few more warnings. No animal control. No social media posts. No showing neighbors. Keep it quiet. I spent the rest of the afternoon reading everything I could about lynx behavior. Territorial patterns. Mating seasons. Risks to humans. Nothing prepared me for what was happening. Most articles agreed on one thing. Lynxes don't seek out humans. That night, I stood on the back porch with a flashlight. Just in case. No eyes glinting in the dark. No sound of movement. But I knew they were out there. Watching. I was on the front porch, trying to trim the rose bushes before they completely devoured the railing, when I noticed the car slowing down near the edge of my driveway. It was Linda from 3 houses down. She leaned over her steering wheel, eyes scanning the trees like she was hunting ghosts. She didn't wave, just stared for a second too long, then kept driving. 15 minutes later, another neighbor walked by with her dog. A retriever. Sweet old thing. But today, the dog stopped halfway down the street, bristled, and growled toward my yard. My chest tightened. People were starting to notice. I tried to play it cool, but the anxiety was like a wasp trapped in my ribs. The lynx hadn't returned since I gave back the cub, and for 2 full days I convinced myself maybe that was it. Maybe she'd moved on. Then, that evening, I heard a thud against the back screen door. I flipped the porch light on and looked out. She was back, alone, and her front leg was soaked in blood. I opened the door slowly. She didn't back away. Her breathing was shallow. She tried to take a step, but collapsed onto the wooden boards. I dropped to my knees beside her. Oh no. No, no, no. The wound looked like a deep gash, probably from barbed wire or a trap. Her fur was matted, her eyes dull but still open. Her whole body trembled. I ran inside, grabbed my emergency kit and a stack of old towels. When I came back, she hadn't moved. I crouched next to her, whispering, "I need you to trust me again." I wrapped the towel around her leg, pressing gently. She flinched, but didn't growl. I cleaned as best I could, hands shaking. My head buzzed with panic. No vet would touch her without sedation, and I couldn't risk calling anyone. Not after what Janet warned me. Then came the voice. "Hey, what are you doing?" I turned. 2 kids stood behind the side fence. One of them, Benji, the grandson of the woman across the street. The other, his friend, maybe 9 or 10 years old. I stood up fast, blocking their view. "Go home," I said. Too sharp. Benji looked startled. "Is that a dog?" "It's nothing. Just go. Now." They didn't move. Then the screen door creaked behind me. The lynx shifted, dragging her leg weakly. And the kids saw her. "Whoa," one of them whispered. "That's a cat. Go home," I shouted. They bolted. I swore under my breath and turned back to her. The towel was already red again. I needed to stop the bleeding. I tightened the wrap slightly, added gauze, and used duct tape to secure it. Not ideal, but better than nothing. She whimpered once. I brushed my hand gently along her back. "Stay with me," I whispered. When I looked up, the streetlight across the road flickered on, and beneath it stood Linda, phone to her ear. My stomach dropped. I carried the lynx inside, barely breathing, and laid her on a folded blanket near the fireplace. She didn't resist, just watched me with tired eyes. I shut the blinds, turned off the porch lights, paced like a trapped animal myself. 10 minutes passed, then a knock on the door. I opened it a crack. 2 uniformed men stood there. One of them wore a badge that read Game and Wildlife. The other had a clipboard. "Good evening," the taller one said. "We've had some reports of a large feline in the area." I faked confusion. "A what?" "A wildcat. Possibly a lynx. Anyone report anything to you?" I shook my head. "Just saw some raccoons lately. Nothing bigger." The second man scribbled something. "Mind if we take a look around?" I hesitated. "There's really nothing here." He tilted his head. "That okay to check anyway?" My heart raced. Before I could answer, a low growl echoed from inside. All 3 of us froze. I stepped outside quickly and pulled the door shut behind me. "Sorry, that's my dog. Not friendly with strangers." The first guy squinted at me. "Mind showing us?" I paused, and that's when I saw the second kid again, standing down the street, pointing. I was out of time. "Look," I said. Something did come by. Briefly, I scared it off. It limped back into the woods. "That's probably what you heard." They exchanged a glance. The clipboard guy sighed. "All right, but keep your eyes open. These animals can be dangerous. You see anything again, report it immediately." Of course. They left. I didn't breathe until their truck disappeared over the hill. Inside, the lynx hadn't moved. I sat down next to her, exhaling shakily. "I don't know what we're doing," I whispered. "But now we're both in this." The next morning, I was up before the sun. I hadn't slept. I just sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the door to the living room where she lay. The lynx hadn't moved much during the night. She was still breathing, shallow but steady. I refreshed the towel around her leg and left a dish of water nearby. She didn't touch it. At 6:30, I heard the knock. Not a friendly one. I opened the door to the same 2 game officers from the night before, plus a third man. This one was older, heavy-set, with a weathered cap pulled low over his forehead. "Morning," said the tall one from yesterday. "We'd like to do a more thorough check this time, if you don't mind." I stepped outside and pulled the door behind me. "What's going on?" He gestured behind him. "We found tracks. Fresh. Right behind your tool shed. Blood, too. We think she might be nesting nearby." I kept my face still. I haven't seen her since that night. The older man with the cap grunted. "If she's wounded, she's a danger. Especially with cubs. We might have to trap and relocate." My pulse ticked up. "Relocate where?" "Sanctuary upstate. They rehab and release. If she can't be released, they'll hold her." "Hold her?" A polite way to say cage. "I haven't fed her," I said quickly. "Or touched her." The man looked at me. "No one said you did." They didn't push further. Just nodded and walked around back. I stood there, hands in fists, heart hammering. I waited until their truck pulled away, then went back inside. She was awake, watching me. "They're looking for you," I said. She didn't move, just blinked, slow and deliberate. The rest of the day dragged. I didn't leave the house, didn't eat. I sat near the fireplace, sometimes reading aloud, sometimes just staring. At one point, I heard rustling outside. Looked out. Nothing. The cubs hadn't come back. I turned the radio on low, just to have some kind of background noise, but even the voices felt invasive. I couldn't focus. Every sound outside made me jump. A squirrel on the roof, a gust of wind, the occasional car passing by. It all felt like a warning. I went to the shed and hid the used towels, burned the bloodied ones in a barrel behind the house, cleaned the porch again, scrubbed it harder than necessary. It was all pointless. If they came again, they'd know. Around 5 in the afternoon, I sat outside on the back steps, facing the woods. I remembered camping trips with my father before everything fell apart, before jobs and expectations, before the marriage that never fit, back when I used to believe nature was something sacred, not dangerous. I was halfway through reheating soup I wasn't going to eat when I saw the headlights. A single truck, pulling into my driveway. I stepped outside as the door opened. It was the older guy with the cap. Alone this time. He approached without hurry. "Name's Mike," he said. I nodded. "You're not here officially?" He smiled faintly. No clipboard. I didn't invite him in. Just stood on the porch. He leaned on the railing. "Look, I've done this job a long time. I've seen what happens when people try to play savior. Wild doesn't stay tame. Usually ends badly. For everyone." I said nothing. "But I also know," he continued, "sometimes the wild comes to us. Not for rescue. Just for a moment." He looked at me. "You want to tell me what's really going on?" I took a breath. Let it out. "She came here. Twice. I didn't lure her. I didn't feed the cubs. But she trusted me. I think. You patched her up?" I nodded. He looked past me, toward the house. "She's still inside?" "Yes." He rubbed his jaw. "That's not protocol, you know." "I know." Another pause. Then he said, "When I was a kid, my dad found a wounded wolf. Hit by a snowmobile. He hid it in our shed. Nursed it for days. The neighbors found out. Wildlife officers came. Took the animal. My dad got fined. But you know what stuck with me?" I shook my head. "One night, before they came, I saw that wolf rest its head on my dad's boot. Not like a pet. Just like it knew. It knew he was the reason it was still breathing." I swallowed hard. "You're not wrong to care," he said. "But you need to be smart about it. If someone else reports this, it won't be me knocking. It'll be the state." I looked down. What should I do? He didn't answer right away. Then, "Give her one more night. If she's strong enough to move, let her go. If not, call me. I'll come myself." "Thank you." He started down the steps, then stopped. "And if the cubs return, stay out of sight. Let her handle it." He left. Inside, I sat beside her again. She was still awake. Watching. "You heard that?" I whispered. "Nothing. Just her breath. You've got one night." I sat there until my eyes closed. In the dark, it felt like she was guarding me just as much as I was guarding her. The next morning would be a crossroads, and I didn't know which direction either of us would take. I reached over and placed my hand gently on the edge of the blanket. She didn't flinch. Her breathing was steadier now. She blinked once and closed her eyes. I could swear it wasn't fear anymore. It was rest. I stayed with her until the sun rose, until the shadows receded, until I could see clearly her wounds, her body, and everything that had led to this impossible moment. One man, one animal, and the fragile thread of trust stretched between us. The morning light crept across the floorboards like a slow wave, golden and still. I woke up in the chair again, blanket twisted around my legs, neck stiff from sleeping upright. The fire had long gone cold. I turned my head toward the spot by the hearth. Empty. The blanket was still there, but the lynx was gone. I stood up fast, too fast, my head spun. I called out instinctively, stupidly. There was no answer, of course. I crossed the room and pressed my hand to the blanket. Still faintly warm. I opened the front door. The porch was damp with dew. And there, in a row, were 4 muddy paw prints leading away. 1 set larger, 3 smaller, fainter. No blood. No signs of struggle. Just quiet departure. I didn't know how long I stood there. Maybe I expected a farewell. Some sign she knew I'd helped her. That I mattered. But she'd left like she came. Silent, careful, wild. It wasn't betrayal. It was instinct. I walked the edge of the woods for hours that morning, eyes scanning the trees, ears tuned for any rustle, crack, breath. But I found nothing. No fur, no tracks. Just the forest, indifferent and alive. Back at the house, I cleaned. For no reason. Scrubbed the floor, laundered the towels, tossed the bloodied gauze. Rearranged the couch cushions like I was expecting guests. Anything to fill the space where she'd been. I didn't realize how quiet the house had become until it was all I could hear. The next few days passed slowly. I tried to write, something I hadn't done since I left the city. Opened the laptop, stared at the screen, closed it again, walked instead, chopped firewood I didn't need, cooked meals I didn't finish. It was grief, I think. Not the kind that comes with death, but with absence. A kind of unspoken finality. She wasn't mine to lose, but I felt the loss anyway. Then the weeks started passing. Mike called once just to check in. I didn't mention that she'd vanished. I didn't need his voice confirming what I already knew. He didn't ask. People in town went back to ignoring me. No more kids at the fence. Linda stopped glaring. The lynx became myth again, a flicker of fur in a backroad memory. And I started to believe that maybe that chapter was closed. Until the knock. It was mid-morning, 2.5 weeks later. I was sanding the edge of a broken kitchen drawer when I heard it, soft but deliberate. I opened the door. Mike stood there, holding a cardboard box. He didn't say anything at first, just nodded toward the box. "They were under the oak tree behind your shed," he said. "All three." I stepped aside. He set the box down on the floor. Inside, huddled together, were 3 cubs. Older now, but still small. Still spotted. Still blinking at me like I was something between a predator and a memory. "No mother?" I asked. He shook his head. "Not a trace." I crouched beside the box. One of the cubs gave a soft, wheezy sound, something like a hiccup and a sigh. My throat clenched. "She brought them here," I murmured. "She left them. She trusted you," Mike said. "You kept her alive. Maybe she figured you'd do the same for them." He didn't stay long after that. Just reminded me not to treat them like pets. Not to tame them. Feed them. Protect them, but don't own them. "They'll need to go back to the wild," he said. "Eventually." I nodded. But we both knew there were no easy maps for this. I set them up in the old laundry room, the same one where one had curled up weeks ago. I left the door open, but gave them space. Chicken and water nearby. Towels in the corner. They didn't move much the first day. Just watched. I didn't try to name them. Didn't speak much. Just let them exist. Nights were hardest. I kept imagining her outside, watching, deciding whether to come back. Each time the floor creaked, each time the wind pressed against the windows, my heart leapt. But she never came. The days grew warmer. The cubs started moving more, exploring the hallway, sniffing at shadows, testing the boundaries. One tried to climb the curtains. Another curled up on a rug like he owned the place. I watched them, always a few steps away, always resisting the urge to reach out. Weeks passed. Then a month. I built a small pen behind the shed, mostly wire and wood, reinforced with stone. Not to trap them, just to give them a taste of outside without the risk. They adapted fast. Too fast. By the end of the second month, they were almost unrecognizable. Sleek. Muscled. Wary. Wild. One morning, I opened the gate. Left it open. Sat on the back steps, coffee in hand, and waited. They didn't run. Just stepped through, one by one. Sniffed the breeze. Paused. Then vanished into the trees without a sound. No fanfare. No hesitation. No goodbye. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I just sat in the dark with the windows open, listening. And somewhere deep in the woods, I swear I heard a sound. Not a cry. Not a growl. Just a presence. A knowing. A thank you. I'll never know why she chose me. But I know she did. And that will always be enough.